The ridge exploded. Rocks and steel rained from the shattered eastern perimeter of Outpost Halcyon Red, flinging human soldiers like ragdolls into the icy wind. Sirens wailed, some mechanical, others human. A Kravari assault drop pod drove its clawed legs into the fractured mountain soil, hissing open with a roar of steam. Joel Riker spat blood onto the snow, wiped his jaw with a gloved hand, and ducked behind the half-melted shell of a supply crate. His pulse thudded hard, but his grip on the pulse rifle was steady. "Kravari!" someone shouted from the upper barracks. "They're pushing through the south slope." Riker didn't answer. He was already moving. The air reeked of scorched electronics and ionized plasma. Kravari EMP bursts had fried most of their tech. Drones were useless, communications dead, auto turrets nothing but twitching statues. Humanity's shiny toys were blind and mute. And the Kravari laughed. From behind his cover, Joel watched them march forward in shimmering blue armor, each step calculated, graceful. Their elongated skulls and four-jointed arms made them look like walking mantises with medals. The one in front, taller, marked in red, snatched up a downed human's rifle, examined it like a museum piece, and tossed it away. "A primitive tool," the alien sneered in universal. "Not fit for even ceremonial combat." The other Kravari chuckled. Joel's rifle clicked. Dead. The power cell was toast, just like the rest of their defense grid. He let it fall and slid down the snowy embankment, disappearing beneath the outpost into a side shaft chiseled through ancient rock. The lights flickered, dim and red. It took him 5 minutes to reach the old armory. The door hissed open with a groan and the scent of oil and time spilled out. This wasn't the official weapons cache. This was his cache, his museum. Long before this war, Joel had collected relics, bolt actions, revolvers, carbines. Things from Earth's bloodier centuries. Most people called them junk. But most people didn't survive long enough to eat their words. He ran a hand along cold metal crates, eyes scanning etched labels until he found it, S-18 Solothurn. The thing was a beast, longer than a man and twice as heavy. A 20mm anti-tank rifle from the Second World War, upgraded with modern recoil pads, alloy reinforcements, and hand-forged tungsten rounds. It wasn't plasma. It wasn't sleek. But it made holes. Big ones. He cracked the lid, lifted the beast onto the bench, and loaded it by hand. 5 shots. That's all he had. 5 messages to deliver. Heavy footsteps echoed in the corridor above. Kravari squads had breached the inner structure. Joel slung the rifle across his back. It growled against his spine like a sleeping monster. He climbed. Emerging into the burning skeleton of the mess hall, Joel spotted 3 Kravari soldiers inspecting the shattered remains of a comms unit. One was laughing. "This species deserves extinction. They craft with wires." "Wires!" Joel knelt, exhaled, and rested the Solothurn across a broken chair. The rifle hummed softly, metal straining against gravity. He didn't aim for the head, he aimed for the torso. Center mass. Let history do the talking. Boom. The rifle thundered like a cannon. One Kravari exploded mid-laugh, armor shattering like glass. The other 2 froze, their laughter cut short by a very human sound, gunpowder wrath. Joel didn't wait. He rolled left, found new cover, and prepared the next round. The rifle bucked against his shoulder like a kicking horse. Boom. Another alien crumpled, chest cavity caved in. The third screamed, not in pain, but in confusion. "What weapon is that?" Joel rose from the smoke. "One we built when war wasn't clean," he said, chambering the next round. "Back when we meant it." The alien bolted. Joel didn't fire. Let him run. Let them talk. He moved like a shadow between debris and dying firelight, his mind sharper than adrenaline. Outside, snow had begun to fall again, dusting bodies and craters in a quiet mockery of peace. Reaching the northern ramparts, Joel spotted 2 EDF survivors, Private Singh and Lieutenant Maras, huddled behind a crushed turret. Both looked up wide-eyed. "Sergeant Riker?" Maras blinked. What the hell are you carrying? Joel dropped beside them and unslung the rifle. A nightmare. Singh leaned forward. Is that a gun? Joel grinned. It's history. And it still kicks. More Kravari were moving up the hill, unaware that death waited in brass and lead. Maras clutched her side, blood seeping through her uniform. We've got maybe 30 minutes before they overrun us. Joel looked down the scope. Then let's make them count every second. He pulled the trigger again. Boom. A Kravari mech lost its knee. The machine folded like paper, flames roaring from its exposed core. Another alien tried to duck. Too slow. Boom. Headless. Singh stared, mouth open. You're making them afraid. Joel reloaded slowly, savoring the clink of metal. Good. Let fear remind them, we survived Earth. That was never luck. He looked up at the dark sky. The next wave would be bigger. He could feel it. But so was the recoil. And for the first time all day he smiled. The dead Kravari was still smoking when Commander Threxus arrived. He towered over the corpse, mandibles twitching as he studied the twisted armor and the cratered chest cavity. His squad fanned out across the rubble-strewn slope, weapons raised, tension crackling through their blue-veined limbs. This was not plasma, Threxus murmured. The medic beside him nodded. Armor ruptured. Projectile entry. Kinetic force massive. Threxus turned slowly, eyes narrowing. They're using primitive weapons? Seems so, sir. Very large ones. For a moment he said nothing. Then he smiled, sharp and humorless. How wonderfully human! On the ridge above, Joel Riker lay prone beneath a melted turret, rifle barrel resting steady on a steel plate warped by heat. Snow flurried around him, whispering through the broken teeth of the outpost walls. Through the scope he saw Threxus. Saw the posture. The authority. The arrogance. He watched, didn't fire. Not yet. He wasn't hunting rank, he was planting fear. He shifted his scope right. 2 Kravari scouts were pacing near a downed human drone, scanning its charged circuits. One crouched and turned the machine over. Joel squeezed the trigger. Boom. The scout vanished in a puff of armor and meat. The other spun, shrieking, and fell trying to scramble behind cover. Joel didn't fire again. He let that one live. That was the trick. Not just death. Uncertainty. 3 hours later, the outpost quieted. The Kravari didn't advance again. They held position instead, something they hadn't done since they landed. Inside the shattered command bunker, Joel and the remaining EDF survivors patched up the wounded and took inventory of everything still functional, which wasn't much. Lieutenant Maras approached him with a limp and a blood-stained datapad. We've got maybe 2 working rifles and a dozen sidearms. No drone uplinks. No medical bay. Comms still fried. And we're down to rations meant for a weekend picnic. Joel sat cross-legged beside the Solituren, cleaning its chamber with a care that looked almost ceremonial. We have terrain, he said. We also have frostbite. He smirked. You say that like I didn't grow up in Detroit. Singh, seated nearby, looked up. Sir, why that gun? Joel paused, then held up around the size of a baby's fist. Solid tungsten, polymer-coated for glide. Heavy in the hand, even heavier in impact. Because it doesn't care what century you're from. This thing didn't evolve with us. It was born complete. You aim it at something, and it dies. No recharge. No uplink. No warnings. Just kinetic truth. Singh looked awestruck. But it's ancient. Joel's voice dropped. That's why it works. Maras gave him a sideways glance. How long have you had it? Since before the EDF banned them. They banned them? Joel shrugged. Said it was inefficient. Not enough rounds per second. Too heavy. Too barbaric. He tapped the barrel affectionately. But they forgot something. Efficiency means nothing if your enemy doesn't expect you to survive. That night, the wind howled across Garhas. Joel couldn't sleep. He walked the outpost's upper ridge alone, boots crunching on the icy metal. The sky above was a sheet of violent stars. Below, distant shapes moved, Kravari patrols, cautious and confused. He stopped near the northern watchtower. A single crate sat there. Rusted, locked, forgotten by everyone except him. He popped it open and pulled out an old Kevlar vest with cracked ceramic plates. Next came a thick file, stained and fraying, photographs, reports, handwritten notes. His grandfather's war journals. Joel flipped to a marked page, yellow with age. They had tanks. We had rocks and rage. They thought we'd break. They forgot who writes history, the last one breathing. He closed the file, lips tight. His family didn't survive Earth's wars by accident. Down below, Threxus stared at the tactical readouts with growing irritation. Dozens of small red dots. No large signatures. No heavy artillery. No signal pings. Yet his forces were losing numbers. One by one. Sniped. Trapped. Shattered. By what? This is undignified, he muttered. His second-in-command tilted her head. The weapon is archaic, but effective. Perhaps we should deploy the Reavers. Threxus waved her off. Reavers are for insurgents. Not these fossils. Still, he felt something stir. Not fear. Not yet. But confusion. And confusion was the first crack in any campaign. The next morning, snow blanketed the outpost in silence. Joel was already up, wiring together salvaged Kravari optics to his rifle's old scope. He had no power, no targeting AI, but the lens was now 10 times clearer, and that was enough. Singh approached with a can of processed rations. You ever name it? Joel didn't look up. The gun? Singh nodded. Joel gave a lopsided grin. Betsy. Seriously? She's temperamental. Kicks hard. Hates missing. Reminded me of my ex. Singh barked a laugh. Well? Betsy's a killer. Joel finished tweaking the optics, shouldered the weapon, and gazed across the valley. No, he said. She's a lesson. At dusk, a Kravari scout team moved up the west ridge, cloaked and crouched low. They moved fast, 6 total, armed with plasma blades and hand cannons. Joel was waiting. He fired from a hidden nest halfway up the ridge wall. Boom! The front runner flipped midair, spine obliterated. The rest scattered. But Joel was already gone. No shots wasted. No wasted time. Like a ghost. Later, one Kravari survivor returned to the camp in a state of near panic. He collapsed before Threxus and spoke only one word. Thunder. Back in the outpost, Singh wiped down one of the old rifles they'd recovered and shook his head. You know, he said, they're not laughing anymore. Joel set down the Solituren, leaned forward, and cracked his knuckles. They mock the past, he said. Now they get to meet it. The Kravari brought a mech. It marched over the northern ridge like a walking cathedral, 9 meters tall, with dual plasma cannons mounted on each shoulder and a glowing shield emitter pulsing at its core. Its metallic steps flattened craters and bones alike. Snow hissed into steam under its heat. From the outpost, it looked like judgment had arrived. Joel didn't blink. He lay flat atop a fuel depot half buried in ash, watching the monstrosity through his upgraded scope. Around him, the outpost's few remaining defenders scrambled to find cover or stared in awe. Singh whispered, Can you even punch through that? Depends, Joel muttered, adjusting the dials. Do you believe in gravity? He dialed in the arc manually, no AI, no digital correction. Just instincts honed from firing heavy steel for 2 decades. Range? Maras called over the comlink, her voice crackling from a barely functional headset. 600 meters. Winds low. Elevation perfect. He pulled the bolt. The anti-tank round seeded like thunder in a barrel. Where are you aiming? Singh asked. Ventilation grill under the power core. Singh squinted. That's tiny. Joel exhaled slowly. Yeah. That's why I only get 1 shot. He pulled the trigger. Boom! The Solituren roared. The world paused. The round arced with beautiful finality, vanishing into the mech's shimmering field, and struck dead center beneath its shield emitter. A hollow clang. Then silence. Then, WHA boom. The mech detonated from within, ripped apart by internal rupture. Its core lit up like a dying star. Pieces of armor flew like shrapnel. The fireball lit the ridge in an orange bloom that could be seen for miles. The Kravari soldiers nearby dropped to their knees. Some ran. Others stared at the smoking wreckage in disbelief. Singh gawked. That was old-school physics, Joel said, standing. They never upgraded against it because they never respected it. Word spread fast. Across the valley, Kravari squads began altering their patterns. They stopped grouping together. They crawled low, behind rocks, watching every hilltop like ghosts haunted them. Threxus slammed his claws into a tactical display. This is not acceptable! His command room was tight, built from mobile alloy sheets. Officers stood frozen. A single human, he growled, wielding a museum piece, is sabotaging a military campaign. His second-in-command kept her voice calm. Our soldiers are terrified of the thunder weapon. Then take it from him. We can't find him. He doesn't stay in one place. He kills, then vanishes. Threxus stared out the viewport toward the scorched slope. Then flush him out. Use the Reavers. Reavers were not soldiers. They were monsters, half-blood Kravari, bred for slaughter, given minimal language and maximum aggression. They wore no armor. They didn't need it. Just claws, bone spikes, and speed. That night, they came in silence. 10 of them. They didn't need light. But Joel was ready. He'd laid traps, pressure mines from salvaged artillery shells, tripwires connected to rigged fuel canisters, and a few blunt instruments courtesy of gravity. The first Reaver triggered a wire. The blast launched it into the side of a wall with a sound like meat hitting pavement. Another ran straight into a snare that collapsed a frozen tower onto its skull. The rest found Joel waiting behind the comms dish. He didn't fire right away. He let the first one lunge. Then boom. Its upper torso vanished. The others hesitated, and that was enough. Singh and Maras opened fire from elevated scaffolds, bullets peppering the pack. Joel rolled right, reloaded, and took aim again. Boom. Second one down. 2 ran. The others scattered. They didn't return. Joel dusted snow from his vest and muttered, "You don't send animals to hunt men." The next morning, a strange transmission was intercepted, static-filled, panicked, not intended for human ears. "We request extraction. Hostiles are unnatural. They kill without pattern. He fires history at us." Maras played it twice. Joel didn't speak. Just smiled quietly. A few hours later, an alien figure approached the outpost, alone, hands raised, unarmed. Young. Slender. Not in armor. The guards tensed. Maras reached for her sidearm. But Joel stepped forward. "Let her speak." The alien's voice trembled. "I am Liraz. I want to defect." Singh scoffed. "This some kind of trick?" "No." Liraz swallowed hard. "I've seen what you do. What he does. You don't fight like machines. You think. You wait. You strike with meaning." Joel studied her. "Why defect now?" "Because the Kravari think war is art. You showed them it's a graveyard." Joel nodded. "You got skills?" "I can hack comms. Jam their scouts. Confuse their patrols." "Good." He tossed her a data pad. "Prove it." With Liraz's help, Joel intercepted enemy routes and started predicting movement patterns. The Solituren became more than a weapon, it was a story, whispered across frozen trenches. They began to call it the Thunder Rifle. Morale shifted. Human soldiers stood taller. Kravari soldiers ducked faster. Joel fired less frequently now, but every shot meant something. 1 round. 1 target. 1 message. And the galaxy began to listen. Threxus didn't send scouts this time. He came himself. The warlord descended with a full strike battalion, armored brutes, storm blades, shockwave cannons, arrayed across the valley in a full crescent formation. A wall of living dread, closing in on a half-dead outpost with smoking turrets and cracked walls. Enough theatrics, he barked, stepping forward alone. I came for the one with the thunder. Joel stood atop the central ridge, hands resting on the barrel of the Solothurn. No armor. Just that same battered coat and Kevlar vest, both stained with dirt and time. Funny, Joel said. You lot started this laughing. Threxus extended a claw, gesturing at the smoking battlefield below. This is your legacy? Corpses and craters? Joel tilted his head. You brought a war to humans. You expected pushovers. You forgot our favorite pastime. Threxus's eyes narrowed. You're alone. Joel smiled. No, he said. I'm bait. A distant boom echoed. Then another. Then the ridge beneath Threxus's troops shifted. Singh and Maras had rigged the slopes with buried charges using unexploded Kravari ordnance, stacked tight under snow and steel plates. The detonation turned the ground into shrapnel. Half of Threxus's front line vanished in a flash of orange. The remaining soldiers panicked. Formations shattered. Some returned fire blindly into the hills. Others backed away. Joel raised the Solothurn. Threxus snarled. That weapon will not kill me. Joel didn't argue. He fired. Boom. The round hit Threxus's shoulder and spun him sideways, tearing armor, breaking bone. The warlord stumbled but didn't fall. Not dead yet, he growled. Good, Joel said, ejecting the casing. I've got more. Threxus charged. Joel moved. Quick, practiced, precise. He dropped behind a collapsed crate and reloaded in one fluid motion. The Solothurn snapped back into place like a limb returning home. Threxus came fast, inhumanly fast, but he was heavy, and the terrain was working against him. Joel ducked, pivoted, and fired again. Boom. The round ripped into Threxus's leg. The alien roared, collapsing to one knee. Still, he didn't fall. He dragged himself forward with one claw, snarling, reaching. Joel stepped back, breathing steady. He had one round left. Threxus glared up, blood pooling beneath him. You think you win by making us fear you? No, Joel said. I win by reminding you that humanity never stopped bleeding. We just learned to aim. He leveled the rifle point blank. Boom. The Kravari commander went still. The remaining aliens didn't wait for orders. They fled. Some ran screaming. Others dropped their weapons. A few knelt down and raised their hands. The rest disappeared into the snow, their belief in invincibility shattered with the man who sold it to them. Later, as the flames died and the sky faded into gray light, Singh walked through the battlefield with quiet awe. He found Joel sitting on a crate, cleaning the Solothurn, hands steady as always. Singh crouched beside him. So, is it over? For now, Joel said. Why'd he come himself? Joel looked out at the horizon. Because he thought showing up would break us. But you can't break what's already bent. Maras joined them, bandaged and limping. They'll remember this. Joel nodded. That's the point. Liraz appeared from behind the tower, carrying salvaged comms gear. Signals up. We can broadcast. You want to say something to command? Joel stood, slung the Solothurn across his shoulder, and faced the camera. He didn't salute. He didn't smile. He just looked straight into the lens. To any species watching, he said, voice low and clear. You mocked our weapons. You mocked our age. You mocked our noise. A pause. Now you understand it. The broadcast went viral across 50 systems in under 6 hours. The image of Threxus's broken body, the Solothurn resting across Joel's lap, and the smoldering battlefield behind them became a symbol, crude, terrifying, and impossible to ignore. Humanity wasn't elegant, but it was efficient. And when cornered, it rewrote the rules. Weeks later, When reinforcements arrived at Halcyon Red, they found the outpost still standing. Scarred. Frozen. Silent. But undefeated. Inside, carved into the steel wall above the armory, were 5 words. "Don't laugh at the relic,"